Everyone, Tim here. So I've been asked really often about if I should take CBD for pain, if I should kind of replace painkillers with CBD, and overall just how does CBD kind of affect pain, right? And so without further ado, let's talk about that. So essentially, pain is, well, most of the pain that you feel is a direct result of inflammation. And so inflammation is essentially the body's response to any kind of trauma or immune response of any kind. And there are actually two kinds of inflammation. One being acute, which is kind of, when your body becomes swollen and red on like the outside. Unfortunately, I think we've all experienced this. It's just, it just happens. Chronic inflammation, of course, is much more insidious. And this is when your cells become sick and trigger a immune response. And what sucks is that this immune response will then make your cells become more sick, more inflamed, right? Which then triggers more responses. And so it becomes this never-ending cycle, which is why chronic inflammation tends to, last in our bodies for quite a long time, right? And traditionally, we're told to take maybe painkillers to, alleviate, the symptoms, but in many cases, it actually ends up doing a lot more harm than it does good. So the choice for most people to combat pain and inflammation are essentially painkillers, right? Now, painkillers work by obstructing the activity of the COX-1 and COX-2 enzymes, which themselves induce inflammation, swelling, as well as pain. Now, you might think, well, isn't it good that, we get to obstruct these enzymes if they're causing so much inflammation and all that in our bodies? Well, here's the thing, right? Our stomachs, our guts actually depend on these COX-1 and COX-2 enzymes to induce this inflammation for protection. So what this means is that, when you're taking painkillers and when it's obstructing these enzymes, you're actually leaving your stomach at risk, right? Because it's losing its protection. And this is why long-term use for painkillers can cause serious damage to your gut. One question that you might have is, well, before the invention of painkillers or, without painkillers, how are we supposed to deal with pain, right? How do we deal with pain? How do we deal with inflammation within our bodies? Well, the inflammation balance of our body is actually modulated by signaling proteins called cytokines, right? Cytokines are directly responsible for causing specific immune cells to either reduce or induce inflammation, of course, based on the specific circumstances. When inflammation is detected, the body will release endocannabinoids to reduce inflammation, right? Endocannabinoids are a natural byproduct of fatty acid metabolism and act as anti-inflammatory agents. One of the most common endocannabinoids created is anandamide, right, which is responsible for creating bliss and reducing inflammation in both the joints and the brain. And also, inflammation in the brain is also what causes symptoms such as brain fog, right, that you might be familiar with. Anandamide works by blocking LP's triggered activation of nuclear factor kappa B, or NFKB for short, the master control switch of inflammation, essentially. Right now, this is extremely significant because constant elevation of the nuclear factor kappa B can actually alter our DNA, and it can make our bodies accustomed to constantly being inflamed or high levels of inflammation. Therefore, anandamide is crucial in preventing the body from becoming used to be operating at high levels of inflammation, right? Because our bodies are always adapting, right? And if we're always inflamed, well, then now our bodies have adapted, and now it's just used to being inflamed, right? So now that we know how our bodies naturally defend against inflammation, how does CBD fit into the equation? Well, CBD assists our bodies by regulating cytokine production, only removing few overactive immune cells that contribute to inflammation in both the joints and the brain. One of the overactive cells is actually the T helper cell, which essentially travels around the body and marks targets for the T killer cells to eliminate. Now the problem is that overactive T helper cells tend to mark targets excessively, even harmless cells. As you can see, this is a pretty big problem. And this is actually what lends to chronic inflammation, brain fog, joint pain, and a variety of other symptoms. So, essentially, CBD increases production of anandamides as well as reduce activity of T helper cells, which may target innocent anandamides. CBD does this by reducing the pro-inflammatory tumor necrosis factor alpha, or TNF-A, and decreasing activity of the fatty acid amino hydrolase. Now, the TNF-A hinders anandamide production, while amino hydrolase carries overall negative effects on endocannabinoid activity within the body. CBD provides a dependable and effective method to regulate inflammation in the body without the adverse effects of many alternatives. Traditional painkillers affect the COX enzymes, which severely damages your gut. If you take THC for pain, it actually inhibits the CB1 receptors, which then halts anandamide production. So again, it's not natural. It still is artificial in that sense, even if you're using THC. So CBD essentially provides superior results through quite literally getting rid of the bad cells and keeping the good ones. Well, anyways, that's all the time I have today. Don't forget to like, favorite, and subscribe, and I look forward to talking to you soon. Thank you and bye.